Hi there, welcome back to the session number 39 Basic English. In our session 38, we introduced the voice. The voice is a grammatical category. There are two types, the active voice and the passive voice. The transformation of an active voice sentence into a passive voice one is a kind of transformation of sentence. What happens there? Actually, it's a kind of change of the sequence of the elements in a sentence. In other words, it's a change of the order of words in a sentence. Subject becomes object becomes subject, and accordingly, the verb also changes its face and figure. This is all about the voice. One thing more, the voice is very much closely related to the verb and also tense. You have learned there are 12 types of tenses and there are 12 types of voices also. 12 types of, say, the active voice and 12 types of the passive voice. We have just discussed one sentence. A cat kills a rat, and in the passive form it becomes a rat is killed by a cat. We told that the verb has a tendency, or verb can look at things from the point of view of the subject and also from the point of view of the object. But when the verb wants to speak from the point of view of the object, the verb needs the passive form. That means in that case, the object of the active voice becomes the subject of the passive voice, and subject of the active voice becomes the object of the passive voice. This much we have done. Now we have to see things in terms of tenses. Today let's discuss simple tenses: simple present, simple past, and simple future. You know simple present tense in its active voice. We have done enough of it. Let's see. My dad writes a letter. My dad subject, writes verb, later is object. We know this very much. Now in passive voice, a letter becomes subject here. So a letter is written by my dad. Is to be verb, written past participle form of write verb, and then by is added and my dad. This is a very small sentence. We can make it bigger. My dad, even at the age of 92, writes a letter every day. We can make it like this. But we want very small sentence. My dad writes a letter. This small sentence, or these three items, subject, verb, and object, these are the main and basic items that are necessary to change a sentence from its active form to its passive form. So let's see. We have now understood a letter is written by my dad is a passive form. How to make an interrogative sentence of the passive form? A letter is written by my dad. Two options are there. Suppose you want the answer a letter. In that case, hide it. Is written by my dad. So, what is written by my dad? Answer will be a letter is written by my dad. Say my dad. You want the answer? My dad. So, by whom is a letter written? By whom is a letter written? A letter is written by my dad. And if you want to make it negative, simply a letter is not written by my dad. So making a sentence negative is very simple. But when we say that transform this sentence into negative, that is difficult. Because in that case, when there is a question of transform the sentence into a negative sentence, then you can't change the meaning. You have to retain the meaning. But here that question does not come. We simply ask you to make the negative of the sentence, means just a letter is not written by my dad. Now maybe you have some problem in seeing these letters. It's a very small space. Or maybe you have some problem in understanding what I say. In that case, there is a simple solution. When you say watch the video, just below the video screen, you have the title, either voice or voice change or change of voice, whatever is there. You just tap there and you will get a text. I supply enough text so that you don't have any problem. So you can read that part. And then again, if possible, watch the video. You will have a very clear picture of things there. And then we come to the next item, that is simple past. My dad wrote a letter. Here we have just write a letter. My dad writes a letter. In the past tense it becomes my dad wrote a letter. It is as simple as that. Just change the verb and put the past tense format. That will do. Now in passive voice, a letter was written by my dad. Very simple. Here a letter is written by my dad. Here it becomes a letter was written by my dad. So here the change is only the change of this is and was. This is becomes was here and it becomes past tense format. So now see the question format. Again hide this letter. Then it was written by my dad. What was written by my dad? A letter was written by my dad. Again hide this one, my dad. By whom was a letter written? A letter was written by my dad. And a letter was not written by my dad. Negative. Come to the future tense. Simple future. My dad will write a letter. Simple thing. My dad will write. My dad writes a letter. My dad wrote a letter. And in the future tense it becomes my dad will write a letter. And in the passive form, very simple. A letter will be written. In the first case it is a letter is written. In the second case, this is past tense, a letter was written. And in the future tense it becomes a letter will be written. So again see the question, a letter, hide it. What will be written by my dad? A letter will be written by my dad. And then again hide my dad. By whom will a letter be written? By whom will a letter? This is a subject, it comes here. By whom will a letter be written? A letter will be written by my dad. The simple answer is like this. So this is exactly what happens when we try to make a passive form of sentence in terms of simple present tense, simple past tense and simple future tense. Very simple thing. You just try to understand or just try to see the structure of the sentence and try to internalize that structure, and that will help you. Now another issue is there. It is always a transitive verb that has an object or two objects. When there is one object, say a letter, there is one possible passive form. But if the number of objects is more than one, I mean two, then what will happen? We will have two passive forms. We have an example. Rosie gives me a rose. There are two objects here. Rosie gives me a rose. Rosie is the subject, gives is the verb, me is an object. Me comes from I, the pronoun I. It has an object in the form of me. This is one object, and a rose, that is another object. Now when there are two objects, be sure one is called, say, direct object and the other is called the indirect object. Which one is the direct object? Just ask the verb, what question? The answer will be direct object. Rosie gives me a rose. What does Rosie give? A rose. So this give verb is very much closely related to this object, that is Rose. So this is direct object, do. And to whom does Rosie give the rose? Me. So me becomes indirect object. So another thing, you just try to remember that indirect object normally comes before the direct object. That is, direct object goes after indirect object. So how to make it a passive voice? So we have two options. We can use any of the objects and make a passive form. So we can make two passive forms here. Suppose Rose, we use this one as a subject. A rose is given me by Rosie. Just hide this one. So what happens? A rose is given by Rosie. A rose is given by Rosie, but we have indirect object me. So a rose is given me, not to me. Here we have to write only me. So a rose is given me by Rosie. And I now want to make me the subject. So me is an object, of course. So the subject form of me is I. So I am given a rose by Rosie. So I am given a rose by Rosie. So you see how both the objects can be used to make passive voice sentences. We have two options here. So what have we done today? Just we have tried to see the passive form of sentences in terms of simple present tense, simple past tense, and simple future tense. And this is very simple, no problem, not very intricate thing. And we have also seen how two objects can be used, or how both of the objects can be used to form passive sentences. Whenever you have two objects, you can use any one of the objects to make passive constructions. Also, this is what we have to remember from this session. And as usual, I would request you to view the full video and share it with your friends. Like it, dislike it, comment on it, and of course, press the bell icon so that any new entry is intimated to you. So this is all that we have today. Have a nice time. Thank you very much.